Hold on. Okay, we're muted. Now I'm set the recording. All right, welcome everybody to ARIIX Success, the first one of the new year. Welcome to 2021. For those of you who know, I am a big Broadway musical fan, and there's a musical called Showboat. It's one of the older ones. It has some great music, but there's a Happy New Year's party scene where the dad is probably had a few too many, and he's this funny character, and he looks in the air and he says, "Happy New Year!" And so that's what I feel like saying. And with that, I will turn it to Robert Allen.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year to you. A year ago, when we were getting ready for 2020, we thought it would be a different year. And so in 2020, regardless of what happened, in fact, that's the way success always is. It's no matter what is happening, you make success happen no matter what the cards you've been dealt. And some of us were dealt some pretty rough cards last year. Some of those cards turned out to be 4 aces. For some people, it was, wow, this is fantastic. Such as our business, where we are in the health business and we are in the home-based business. Wow, it couldn't have been better. It could have been a better wake-up call for all of us and for our business. But have we been using it as good news, or have we been using it as bad news? So, like, life is going to get thrown at us in 2021, and we get to decide what we make of it, right? So 2021 is laid out in front of us, the blank slate. What we want to talk about today, I want you to write these 2 words down. It's called the vision decision. The vision decision. People are setting their resolutions now, and these resolutions are, they're resolving that they're going to change their life in one way or another. And those resolutions, as we all know, those resolutions usually don't last very long because they are based upon our current situation. Usually the pain we have is current pain. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to to change your current pain into future pain. Now, I know that sounds like almost like, wow, what a terrible way to look at the future. One of the reasons that sometimes we change our life today is because we are in pain today. Maybe our weight is not what we'd like it to be, therefore we have a certain amount of pain. And once the pain gets bad enough, what do? Well, we change our life, don't we? Because the pain was so bad. And unfortunately, as we move towards our ultimate goal of, say, losing some weight, the pain goes away. And therefore, the thing that sometimes motivated us to get started is not there any longer. And therefore, some of that's the reason that most resolutions fail, because the pain that got us started into it goes away when we start making some improvement. So we lose 5, 8 pounds, we want to lose 30, but we lose 5 or 7, and we feel good about ourselves, and the pain goes down, and therefore our motivation is gone. And so as we look at 2021, I'm going to ask you to think about pain in a totally different way. Rather than deciding on your current lifestyle about the life you're going to change, rather than saying to yourself, I'm not making enough money, therefore I'm feeling a certain amount of pain. I need to be making more money in order to solve some of the problems I've had recently. Therefore, I've got to go out there in the world and bring some money in the door. But as soon as the money starts flowing in the door, the pain goes away. Therefore, the motivation dies. And that's, like I said, one of the reasons why a lot of us fail. We start off using current pain. And I'm going to ask you to do something radically different. And I'm going to ask you to make a vision decision. In other words, your conversation with yourself at the beginning of 2021 should revolve around the person you want to be, or I would call that your future self. Who is your future self. And how does your future self behave? What is their lifestyle like? This future self is going to be different than your current present self. You're going to have different kind of pain in the future. When you reach your future self, well, will you ever reach your future self is I guess the real question. I would like you to watch an Academy Award winner talk about his future self. And so let me share that with you right now, and then we'll bring us back to our conversation right now. So you should be able to see. This is 3 minutes long, so everybody watch, enjoy. Here we go.
Thank you to the Academy for this. All 6,000 members. Thank you to the other nominees. All these performances were impeccable, in my opinion. I didn't see a false note anywhere. I want to thank Jean-Marc Vallée, our director. I want to thank Jared Leto, Jennifer Garner, who I worked with daily. There's a few things, about 3 things to my account that I need each day. One of them is something to look up to, another is something to look forward to, and another is someone to chase. Now, first off, I want to thank God, because that's who I look up to. He's graced my life with opportunities that I know are not of my hand or any other human hand. He has shown me that it's a scientific fact that gratitude reciprocates. In the words of the late Charlie Lawton, who said, when you got God, you got a friend, and that friend is you. To my family, that's who and what I look forward to. To my father, who I know is up there right now with a big pot of gumbo. He's got a lemon meringue pie over there. He's probably in his underwear, and he's got a cold can of Miller Lite, and he's dancing right now. To you, Dad, you taught me what it means to be a man. To my mother, who's here tonight, who taught me and my 2 older brothers, demanded that we respect ourselves. And what we in turn learned was then we were better able to respect others. Thank you for that, Mama. To my wife, Camilla, and my kids, Levi, Peter, Mr. Stone, the courage and significance you give me every day I go out the door is unparalleled. You are the 4 people in my life that I want to make the most proud of me. Thank you. And to my hero, that's who I chase. And when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life come to me and say, who's your hero? And I said, I don't know, I got to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks. I come back 2 weeks later. This person comes up and says, who's your hero? I said, I thought about it. You know who it is? I said, it's me in 10 years. So I turned 25 10 years later. That same person comes to me and goes, so are you a hero? And I was like, not even close. No. She said, why? I said, because my hero is me at 35. So you see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero is always 10 years away. I'm never going to be my hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. So to any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right. To that I say, just keep living, huh? Thank you.
So
I'm going to talk to you about some things
So the question I'm going to ask you is, who is your hero? And how does your hero behave? Your hero, as he was saying, his hero is himself 10 years from now. It's his future self. And his future self, he says, is always going to be changing. It's always going to be moving off into the future. Your future self, but you gotta know what your future self is. What do you want your future self to be, how will he or she behave? What will his or her life be like? It's not a decision on whether you lose some weight over the next 90 days or whether you achieve another rank in ARIIX over the next 90 days, whether you add a relationship to your life over the next 90 days. The question is, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what kind of decisions will your future self be making? More than likely, your future self will be a different person. A person, obviously you'll have the same DNA. You'll be the same human being, but you'll have achieved certain characteristics. You'll have achieved certain achievements, certain habits you will have built and strengthened, certain habits that you didn't need, you've eliminated, you've gotten rid of. You've established certain patterns in your life. They become who you are now. That's your future self. Now, what happens if you don't achieve your future self? What happens if your current self, which is going to be always with you, your current self will always be with you, because that's the only time you have to change. The only time you can change your life is now. You can't change your life tomorrow. You can't change your life yesterday. You can only change your life right now, today, because it's the only time when you have any power. And yet I'm asking you to go out into the future. He does a 10-year vision. I would prefer you to stick to a 5-year vision, because I think 5 years is realistic. Because in 5 years, you can say to yourself, you know, I could be a better person in 5 years from now. I could be a radically better person 5 years from now. I could be living in a much better situation 5 years from now. My life could be much stronger 5 years from now. My future self. Now, when you get to your future self, obviously 5 years from then is another growth period for you, because we're always going to be growing eternally. We're going to be learning forever. The real question I'm asking you now is, as you start acting on your today, because this is the only time you can change, having the pattern or the blueprint of who you want to be 5 years from now is extremely motivating. And you get to decide today whether you took action today to make that 5-year vision happen, or whether you let slip that decision, that opportunity you had to change your life, you let it slip. And if you let it slip, then obviously you have an opportunity to decide on that tomorrow. But if there's no pain attached to it, then there usually isn't any motivation. So you maybe never heard it really explained this way before. It's the first time I've really explained it myself. 5 years from now, if you don't take action today, how will you feel about your current self? What will your future self think about the actions you did or did not take today? Because you only can decide to do something today, because it's the only time you have any chance, any power. Your dreams, they might be 5 years from now, but the only time when you can do anything about it is today. It may not be a big step, it could be a baby step, but the only time you have any power is now. And so the real question I want to ask you is your future self so real to you that as you take action today, your future self is encouraging you and saying, come, it's better here in the future, but you have to take little baby steps today. Have to. If you put it off, that pain of putting it off, that procrastination, usually that doesn't have a consequence to it. There's no pain attached to it. Maybe a little bit of guilt, like, oh, darn it, I should have done something about my life today. I should have done something, but I didn't. I'll put it off till tomorrow. Well, if you put it off till tomorrow and there's no real pain attached to it, then it's easy to put it off to tomorrow. What I'm asking you to do is to take the pain of not living your ideal lifestyle and bringing that from 5 years in the future to today. And you say, well, Robert, that means I'm always in pain. I mean, don't I want to have a life that's without pain, without regret, without guilt? Don't I want to have a life that's pressureless, no pressure? Successful people, they have the ability to go out in the future, decide what they want to be like, and bring that decision, that what I call the vision decision, and to bring that decision back to today, and have a realization of what they have to do today, and that if they don't take that step today, there's a consequence. That they are actually, there's a discontent that they have. I read this quote in the wall of Epcot Center. It was from as Thomas Edison. He says, you know, his motivation was discontent. I mean, how can that be? He was one of the greatest inventors who ever lived, and the reason he was so successful is because he was constantly in discontent. He realized, I haven't discovered it yet, and I haven't made the steps today to make movements toward it. And therefore, he felt this constant cognitive dissonance, where he knew what he wanted and he knew where he was, and the distance was this cognitive dissonance that forced him to take action today. So I'm going to ask you about your future self. I'm not going to talk about 2021. I'm not even going to talk about the 90 days in 2021 from now. I'm talking about your future self. And that future self, I want you to make really clear. Who is she? Who is he? What do they do? How do they act? How do they approach procrastination? I need you to bring that person and make sure it's really clear on what you really want, who you really want to be, and let that person come and visit you today. Be so close to you and guiding you that the tiny baby steps you need to take today, and they're baby steps, they're small things. You don't have to do much. But if you don't take that little baby step today, I want your future self to be disappointed, to be discontented. The fact that you had it in your power to take some steps today and you didn't. And therefore, that needs to build up into a certain sense of cognitive dissonance where you go, okay, the pain, what will it be like to be 5 years from now, to be living in the same place you're living now, driving the same car, the same credit cards, same kind of income. If you were to go out in the future and imagine yourself not doing anything to achieve your ultimate goal, and realizing 5 years from now, you're the same person, you have the same habits, the same bad habits, and not enough of the same good habits, that you are literally allowing yourself to drift towards that future, how painful will that be? Well, if you're willing to allow that to happen, then maybe the pain isn't enough. What I'm asking you to do is to go out into the future, and instead of imagining how good it could be, how bad could it be if you end up 5 years from now and nothing's changed? That's not acceptable, is it? It's not acceptable. I need you to get into that mindset, but that being who your future self is, being who you desire to be, want to be, dream to be, that person is really important to you, and then nothing else is acceptable. Anything else is not You're not willing to accept it. So starting off the beginning of this year, we all have our resolutions. I'm going to ask you to have a vision decision. First of all, what I mean by that is decide what your vision is. Who is you 5 years from now? Who is your future self? How are you different? How are you stronger? How are you more courageous? How are you more wealthy, more successful, more happy, better relationships, better health? What is your ideal self? Be really clear about that and say, this is non-negotiable. This is non-negotiable. I call it your ideal self, but it's more than your ideal self. It's what must become. Therefore, you have to be real careful about that. What must I become? It's not that I have an ideal lifestyle. It's like I've decided. That's what I mean by your vision decision, your vision decision. Your decision is, I must be this person. It's non-negotiable. Today, if I don't take a step, a baby step, just a little step, towards what I clearly know is something I definitely want, it is non-negotiable to me. If I don't take that little baby step, then the whole pain comes to me and I go, you know what? It's just too painful for me not to continue to make this decision. It's different than current pain. It's future pain. And I know that's kind of crazy. You have to really think through it. Current pain is that you currently have an extra, your clothes don't fit. That's painful. Your wallet or your purse is not filled with enough money. That's painful. Your relationships are having trouble currently right now. That's painful. What I'm asking you is to have a lifestyle that's non-negotiable. That means you have to take a few steps every day. I call that a must. And in the book, The 4 Maps, which I've given to all of you, if you don't have a copy of that, you can always email me at bestsellerbob@gmail.com and I'll send you one. bestsellerbob@gmail.com. The decision is, what do you want your life to be like, and how can I make it non-negotiable? So that every step I take every day, I make a step that's a must. It's not a wouldn't it be nice? Or gee, I wish I was. It's not a wish. It's not a wish. Wishes are what make people fail because they wish things. There's no consequence if they don't achieve their wish. I'm going to ask you to decide today, what must you do? Must, in order to achieve this lifestyle that you said you wanted. And it's non-negotiable. Like when you achieve your 5-year ideal lifestyle with all the things you said you wanted to have in that lifestyle, that if you don't take a step on it today, another day goes by. And you know what? If you miss one day, it usually puts you back about a week. It's kind of like compound interest gone the opposite direction. When you procrastinate, it pushes things off a week. If you procrastinate 2 days, it pushes it off 2 weeks. You know, things keep pushed off in the future. Your decision today of what you do, by the way, you still there? So your decision today is, this is non-negotiable. Today is a must. I have to take a step. If I'm going to call 5 people today, have to call 5 people. I've heard stories about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he had to do so many miles a day in his training for whatever world record he was going from. He'd get into a hotel on a long trip, and he would climb the stairs in his hotel, 30 flights of stairs, up and down, up and down, up and down, because it was a must. His day would not end until he had done what he needed to do, because he knew in order to be a world champion, it was a daily decision. It's not a 5-year decision. It's a daily decision. So I'm asking you today, how good do you really want it? And are you willing to experience the pain today of not moving towards that thing you really wanted? That pain should be, I blew it today. I didn't get it done. What are you going to do to make up for that? Well, it isn't midnight yet. Essentially, you have another 7 or 8 hours. So like Schwarzenegger, go climb the stairs, 30 flights if you have to. But daily is your decision to change, because it's the only time you have any power. I know you've heard that said before, but it's maybe the most true thing I've ever really understood in my lifetime, is that you can't live your life in the future and you can't live your life in the past. There is only one moment, and that's right now, where you have an opportunity to change. And one little baby step is all you have to take. Tomorrow, you have no power over tomorrow. You have no power over 5 years from now. The power is now, right today. So today's decision is based upon your future self. What do you want him or her to look like? So here's some questions that I'm pulling this from a book that I enjoy very much. It's called Personality Isn't Permanent. Break Free from Self-Limiting Beliefs and Rewrite Your Story by Benjamin Hardy. This is an excellent book on personal growth. One of the best I've ever read. And it's just brand new. It's just only been out like 6 months. I underline books. If a book is underlined, it means that there's a lot of good stuff in it. This book I've got maybe a third of it's underlined because I like to learn when I read a book, and rather than read the entire book all over again, I go back and I just read my underlining. So this is from a chapter on the truth of personality. What I'm asking you to do about your future self, what is your future personality like? When she or he is faced with an obstacle where she or he could procrastinate it, what does your future self, your future personality, what does he or she do? How do they behave? When you're really clear on what your personality is, who you want to be, then you have to decide to do that, something about that today, right? So here's some questions that he's asking. What is your day-to-day life like in your future self? When you get up in the morning, what time do you get up? What do you eat? What does your day like? Who do you talk to? How do you entertain yourself? What projects are you involved in? What charitable things are you doing? This is your day-to-day, right? What do you stand for? And maybe another question is, what won't you stand for? In other words, your personality has certain values, things that you stand for. They're valuable to you, and therefore, since you stand for those things, you live for those things. What values drive you? How much money do you make? This is your future self. And you can't obviously project yourself, or I guess what I'm summarizing is every day you have to make steps towards that. It's the only time you have any power, right? What kind of clothes do you wear? Same clothes? Maybe so. Maybe you have the freedom to wear whatever you want to wear. Or maybe you've always wanted to wear better clothes. It's your future. It's your future self. How do you interact with other people? Are you gracious to other people? Do you appreciate them? Do you respect them? Do you admire them? How do you treat other people? How do you view your present and your future? In other words, 5 years from now, in your future self, you will have a future. So your 5-year future from now just like McConaughey said, when he gets to his 10-year future self, he calls it his hero, that hero will have bigger dreams and bigger goals, will be further in the future. He'll never be catching up to his future self, but he'll always be inspired and motivated by his future self. So how do you view your present 5 years from now? And how do you view your future 5 years from now? What is your purpose? Why are you here on this planet? What drives you? What moves you? What causes you to say, this life is worth living? I want to live as long as I can in this life. Where do you live? In the same place? Same building? Same apartment? Same house? Same condos? Where do you live? Where do you want to live? So your future self gets to decide, well, I guess your current self gets to decide what your future personality is like. Because that personality gets to act in a way that continues to grow your future self. So what kind of personality do you have? Who are your friends? And what skills and talents have you developed? In other words, if you want to have a skill, suppose you're shy and you don't want to be shy, you know that's cost you a fortune. You want to be a stronger person, therefore you want to be yourself, but in a way that is maybe not shy. Maybe it's a self that is more personable. And you know it'll be a stretch. You know it'll be difficult. You know, maybe you've been, I'm talking to a handful of you, maybe only 1% of you on this call I'd be speaking directly to, but maybe you're a natural wallflower. Whenever you came into a room, you just attached yourself to the wall, hoping somebody wasn't going to ask you what was going on. Do you want that to be your future self? Obviously not. So sometime in the future, your personality has got to grow. It's got to stretch. It's got to be more personable. It's got to be more willing to reach out and talk to people, less afraid of rejection, taking people's rebuffs and taking them less personally. You know, when you're shy and somebody looks you the wrong way and you automatically interpret it that they don't like you, where what they really were doing was having a moment of gas or something, and their face just showed the wrong expression, and you interpreted it that it was them not liking you, because that's sometimes what the shy personality does. And yet, to strengthen yourself so that your personality doesn't get offended by anything, by the way anybody looks or what anybody says to you. It may take 5 years to develop that personality, but it's the deciding what that will be like, and imagining 5 years from now with a shyer personality, or used to having a shyer personality, realizing that now you're not as afraid when people say things that might used to offend you or bother you. You know, as they say, you'd be a lot less worried about what people think of you if you realized how little they do. And a shy person thinks that people are always thinking of them. They're always noticing them, when the real truth is that very, very rarely is anybody noticing you. And yet, if you're shy, you're assuming that everybody's watching you. And so, as a personality of a stronger, or let's say a more resilient personality, what is the word to describe that new future you? What will be the way you describe yourself? What adjectives will you use? Will it be resilient? Will it be persistent? Will it be, a person that just gets it done, a get it done personality, a person that unstoppable. Maybe when you're sharing with somebody else, you're irresistible, meaning when you talk about an opportunity that you have, in the way you explain it to somebody else, you're irresistible. Why? Because it's just who you are. You're persuasive in a good way. And sometimes persuasive can be a negative word, but when you're irresistible, people say, "Oh, what do you got going on these days, Bob? Really? Tell me about it." Instead of worrying about what they think, whether or not that they would appreciate what you're doing. Anyway, I want you to write into the chat right now. Write some adjectives that describe your future self. I want you to write down, I'm going to pick 5, an adjective that would describe who you are. Maybe what you could do is use your name, use your own name as a way to remind yourself of the adjectives that relate to your future self. So my name is Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T. So Robert, relentless. That's an adjective that I could put in my name if I wanted to. Oh, I'm very optimistic, no doubt about that. What are the characteristics of your personality that you want to identify and act on today? So I'm going to ask you to select, take your first name. You don't have to do it this way. If you have other adjectives that are really important to you and you can't seem to fit the acronym into your name, then just come up with the adjectives. That's what I really want. What are the adjectives that describe who you are, your future self? If you're saying today you're shy, then how can you say the word shy in such a way that in your future self helps you grow beyond that into a future self you would be proud of, a future self you would like to coach you, because your future self coaches you. It's almost like they're with you all the way. They can even be with you as you're today going through a challenging day. They can be a cheerleader for you. Come on, Bob. You've got a non-negotiable future self that is waiting for you. And your future self would be saying, I am that non-negotiable future self. And I'm speaking to you today in the less, the person who needs to make some improvement in their life. I want you to realize what your non-negotiable future self is like, personality-wise. So I'm going into the chat now. And some of you have started, yeah, there we go. Determined, excellence, bulletproof. Okay, Deb. Oh, she's done DEB, and that bulletproof is one of them. Very good. Kathy is confident, healthy, dynamic, grateful, positive, irresistible. Very good. Teresa, courageous, assertive, committed. Anita says empowering, motivating, blessing, inspiring, legacy driven. Very good. Ruth is courageous, empathetic, irresistible, positive, ruthless. Her name is Ruth, but she's ruthless. Very good, Ruth. Empathetic, says Rebecca, to the top. Unstoppable, Terry and Susan. Brave, brave, brave. Well, what Matthew McConaughey was saying, he was basically saying, who is your hero, Matthew? And he says, my hero is me 10 years from now. That's my hero. And therefore he has imagined himself doing things that were way beyond his current self. That's why he was a hero. In order to get to be hero, Matthew had to do things that were heroic. And that he'd have to do those heroic things every day. Something heroic every day. Because a little thing heroic, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but a little heroic baby step that would take him to ultimately his 10-year hero status. Betty, bold, effervescent, tenacious, team player, and youthful. Betty, that she has a great acronym. Very good, Betty. Tracy, yes. Tina, trustworthy, inspiring, nurturing, authentic. Very good. Now, with these descriptions, these adjectives that describe the current and future you, how can your current self allow a day to go by without at least one step towards your future self? If your future self is non-negotiable, then your daily action is non-negotiable. In other words, it gets done first. When you get up in the morning, you know you have to make certain steps in order to achieve your 5-year non-negotiable future self. Therefore, what is that baby step for today? What is your must for today? Don't procrastinate it. Don't wait till the end of the day. Get it done now. Why? Because your future self is right there next to you saying, come on, show me something heroic. Show me something that has some courage. Show me some character. Show me a little thing. Just show me something today, now. Get it done. And then check it off, and then you can go back to your ordinary life. But usually when you do the courageous thing first, it's kind of like the way they say, if you want to do 100 push-ups, then start with one. And usually if you do one, you usually can be inspired to do 2, maybe 3. But if you don't do any, what it does is it pushes off the action you were going to take. Since you procrastinated and put it till tomorrow, you push it off another week. If you keep pushing things off, it keeps pushing them off till it's a month, until it's 6 weeks, until it's 6 months, until it's a year, until you're so heavy you can't lift yourself off the floor with one push-up. If you just do one, you get it done first. You're basically saying to your future self, I know you wanted me to do this. I did it for you. Now, if you don't do it, then there's pain. You need to bring the pain to that day. And I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so who knows? Maybe this isn't the right thing to teach it. But if I look at really successful people, they are constantly dissatisfied. See, how can that be? They're dissatisfied because they always know what they want. They know what they want, and they bring that want to today. And they're dissatisfied if they haven't done anything about it. And the pain of not achieving that daily thing really eats at them, really bugs them. They bring the future pain to today. Now, if they do it, then they have that sense of accomplishment. Like, this is what my future self requires of me. I can only change what I do right now, today. There is only this moment. All of my entire life is boiled into one day. I'm going to make this day count. One day, that will be your last day. We all have a last day. So we decide that this is going to be my last day, then I'm going to make this day count. As Stephen Covey used to teach, Have heard me tell this story maybe 5 or 6 times because I love this story. The professor calls his students around the table, and he brings out this jar filled with big rocks, and he goes, "Is this jar full?" And they say, "Yeah, it's full of big rocks." And he brings out another jar filled with smaller pebbles, and he pours the pebbles inside the other jar with the big rocks, and it fills it up. And he goes, "Is it jar full now?" And now they're on to him. They say, no, it's probably ways you could squeeze more things into. And he brings out a jar filled with sand, and he pours the sand in until it finally fills up. "Is this jar full?" "No." He brings out a jar filled with water, and he pours the water in until it overflows. And he says, "What's the lesson?" And somebody pipes up, "Well, you can always put more stuff in the jar." That's not the lesson. The lesson is, if you don't put the big rocks in first, you can't get them in. If you fill up your day with stuff that doesn't count, you can't get the big rocks in. So your big rock is, what do I do today that makes my future self real? That makes my future self proud of me today? That makes me as a hero in the future come back to me today and say, "Attaboy, attagirl." That's what future selves do. They act today. I'm going to challenge each of you to get really clear on the personality, the identity of the person you want to grow into. What is your identity? It won't be little things like, "Yeah, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. That's not the identity I'm talking about. Your future self wouldn't allow there in the first place. It has an identity of what it eats, what he or she eats, what he or she behaves. Anyway, today is kind of like a rah day for the rest of 2021. But remember, I'm going way beyond 2021. I'm asking you to decide what I call the vision decision. It's how good do you want to feel about what you do today, or how bad do you want to feel about what you didn't do today? And they are both motivating. The dream of what you want to accomplish 5 years from now is motivating for some people. In NLP, they call it moving towards decisions. People like to move towards an ideal lifestyle. And they're motivated by that. They're pulled towards it. They pull. They feel they're drawn. They're attracted. They're pulled towards what they want. But the moving away from decision, some people are motivated by pain, by things that they don't want in their life. They said, "I was raised in a neighborhood like this, and I will never be in a neighborhood like that again." And therefore, they're constantly being reminded of where they grew up and what their relationships were like and how it had messed with them and how they decided they would never be like that again. Never. And the pain of even thinking about that kind of lifestyle moves them, pushes them towards an ideal lifestyle. So some people are moved towards, and some people are moved away from. And I'm asking you to do both. What is your ideal lifestyle? What does the hero do? What are his or her characteristics, her identity, in the sense, as Anthony says, he's abundant, nonstop, tactical, hungry, and using Les Brown's voice, optimistic. Okay, Anthony, you got a few more letters to go there, but this is not just a silly, fun exercise. This is non-negotiable. And you make it so real to you that it's non-negotiable every day. It's non-negotiable that you are a chairman or a chairperson in ARIIX. It's non-negotiable. When will that be when will you have proven that fact? Well, 5 years from now or sooner. When was that day? Set that day. Who will that person be? That chairperson that you desire yourself to be. What are their characteristics? What is their personality? What is their identity? Because they just act like a chairperson. That's just what a chairperson does. They are that kind of person. So I'm going to ask you, to step into your future chairperson. I want your future chairperson to get really tough with you. Look back at you today. Look down the mountain where you're climbing. They're at the top of the mountain. They worked hard to get there. They look down at you climbing and they go, take another step. No, you cannot procrastinate. No, this is a big rock. Put the big rock in first. Get it done, check it off. Then you can do whatever you want for the rest of the day. But we do these things first. Why? Because it's non-negotiable. My friends, hope that wasn't too strong, but I'm asking you to 2021 is going to happen whether you like it or not. 2021 is going to have its challenges whether you like them or not. It's going to have its opportunities whether you like them or not. Every day, regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of what's going on in your life, your future self is non-negotiable. That means that nothing knocks you off your path, nothing. So I'm asking you to share with us any thoughts, comments, questions you have at this point for the last few minutes. Rick, I know sometimes you have another call right after this, so we have to get off, but just tell me, what ahas did you get from our conversation today? What did you disagree with? I'm happy with that too. This is just my thoughts, my opinions. I hope they've been valuable to you. We said that we would continue our calls if we had 100 people. 2 weeks ago, we said 100 people is how many people we need onto this call. Today we had about 80. Next week we need 100. By the end of January, there are not 100 on this every single week. I'm done. That's non-negotiable. So if you really want to keep these calls going, invite people to come, okay? All right, key takeaway, decide. Thank you, Werner. Yes, thank you, good. Keep going. I'd like to see what ahas did you get? Thank you. Authentic, nurturing, delivers, reliable, energetic, angel. Very good. Thanks, Robert. Non-negotiable. That's the one that came through. And when I started our conversation today, those two words were not in my head. I did not think non-negotiable. But sometimes when you're speaking, some words and some phrases and some thoughts just kind of start repeating themselves. So that's what I'm going to come away with. Non-negotiable, good, on a daily basis. Yeah, discontent. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so next week, this is the beginning of 2021. We'll give you a little bit of leeway as of the first Monday in the 2021, but the next Monday in 2021, we need 100 people on this call. So go break some friends, see if we can break our 100. We've got 4 weeks to make it happen. That's non-negotiable. Okay, hey Rick, I turn it back to you.
Thanks, Robert. And I'm going to stop the recording.